What if I told you there are maps in existence that show places nobody in our time was supposed to know about? Islands that are now underwater, continents drawn centuries before we officially discovered them, and coastlines shaped exactly as they looked over 12,000 years ago. These aren't sci-fi stories, they're real maps. But the question is, who made them? The mystery begins. History tells us humans only started making long ocean voyages a few thousand years ago. The great Polynesian navigators, often called the world's first true masters of the sea, are celebrated for their skill. Over 3,000 years ago, they found tiny, isolated Easter Island, sitting like a speck in the middle of the Pacific, 2,000 miles from anywhere. That's an incredible feat. But what if there were sailors? Far earlier than that. Sailors who crossed entire oceans thousands of years before Polynesian voyages. If that's true, then the story of human history is missing a huge chapter, and the evidence may be hiding in plain sight in the lines and curves of ancient maps, the maps that shouldn't exist. Most old maps we know were drawn between the 1300s and 1700s. But here's the strange part. Many were based on even older source maps that have been lost to time. One of the most famous is the Piri Reis Map, created in 1513 by a Turkish admiral. Only a portion survives today, showing the coasts of South America, Africa, and even something shocking, a section of land at the bottom of the world that looks like Antarctica. How could this be? Piri Reis wrote right on the map that he copied it from over 100 older charts, some said to have come from the legendary Library of Alexandria, rescued before it was destroyed. If that's true, then fragments of Ice Age geography survived through secret hands for thousands of years before ending up on his desk. The longitude problem. To understand why this is such a big deal, you need to know about longitude. Latitude, measuring how far north or south you are, is fairly easy with the right tools. But longitude, knowing your exact position east or west, is tricky. You need a clock so accurate it can keep perfect time on a rolling ship, so you can compare the local time with your starting point. The problem? Our civilization didn't invent such a clock until the late 1700s. Before that, even skilled captains could be hundreds of miles off course without knowing it. Yet these ancient maps show coastlines with precise relative longitudes. That means whoever made the original maps had mastered navigation techniques at least as advanced as those in the 18th century, thousands of years earlier. Antarctica, before it was found. Take the Pinkerton map from 1818. It's missing Antarctica completely because Europeans hadn't discovered it yet. It only appears on maps after 1820. But here's the mystery. Maps like the Piri Reis and the Orontius Finaeus maps, drawn hundreds of years earlier, clearly show Antarctica, and not buried under miles of ice. The outlines match how it would have looked during the last ice age, when sea levels were lower and more land was exposed. So who could have charted an ice-free Antarctica thousands of years ago? The Bahamas enigma. On the Piri Reis map, off the east coast of North America, there's a large island with a line of giant stones running through it. That's exactly where the Grand Bahama Bank is today. But now it's underwater. Divers have found something there called the Bimini Road, a long line of massive stone blocks beneath the waves. Experts argue whether it's natural or man-made, but here's the thing. The last time it could have been above water was thousands of years ago. Whether it's an ancient harbor, a ceremonial path, or just oddly shaped rock, the fact it appears above water on an old map is the real puzzle. If you're enjoying this dive into history's strangest cartographic mysteries, hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe. We've got more journeys into the past coming your way. Not high-tech, but highly skilled. Let's make one thing clear. We're not saying there was some forgotten civilization with iPhones, space rockets, or flying cars. This isn't the kind of Atlantis you see in movies with glowing towers and Wi-Fi under the sea. What we're talking about is a group of people who lived thousands of years ago during the Stone Age, yet managed to develop skills that were far ahead of their time. They learned how to study the stars and use them like a giant map in the sky. They figured out how to measure distances across huge stretches of ocean with surprising accuracy. They built strong ships that could survive long journeys, allowing them to explore lands far beyond their own shores. This was no ordinary Stone Age tribe. These were master navigators, careful planners, and brave explorers. They were mapping coastlines and connecting distant parts of the world long before most people even thought such travel was possible. In fact, their level of knowledge in astronomy and navigation was something that our own modern civilization struggled to perfect until just a few hundred years ago. Clues hidden in the Ice Age world. During the last Ice Age, sea levels were over 400 feet lower than today. Coastlines stretched farther out. Islands were larger. In Southeast Asia, the Malay Peninsula and the Indonesian islands formed one giant landmass. Australia and New Guinea were connected, and Antarctica's coastline was much larger. Some ancient maps reflect these exact conditions, not the way the world looks now, but the way it looked more than 12,000 years ago. That means the original cartographers must have been alive, or at least had access to knowledge from that period. Why would this knowledge be lost? If such a civilization existed, why don't we know about it? Natural disasters, climate change, and rising seas could have wiped out coastal cities. Over time, survivors might have lost the technology, leaving only fragments of their knowledge preserved, passed from culture to culture, copied again and again, until they became the source maps of the Middle Ages. Think about it. The Library of Alexandria wasn't just full of Greek texts. It was a collection of the world's wisdom. If even a few scrolls from a much older world made it there, and some survived its destruction, that could explain how ancient Ice Age knowledge trickled into maps made centuries later. The Orontius Finaeus Map. Another striking example is the Orontius Finaeus Map, drawn in 1531. It shows Antarctica's outline, including rivers and mountains beneath the ice, in the correct position. Modern radar surveys match much of what's drawn. And at the very bottom of the mapmaker wrote a note in Latin. In it, he proudly claimed that he was showing lands hidden in darkness. In other words, he was telling people that these were places the world had never seen before, places kept secret or unknown for ages. Was that just poetic flair? Or a hint that these maps came from ancient, long-forgotten sources? A question of belief. Mainstream archaeology often rejects these ideas, insisting there's no proof of a global seafaring culture during the Ice Age. But the maps themselves are physical evidence, documents that shouldn't be possible if the history books are correct. We're left with a choice. Do we believe the official timeline, where humans only mastered ocean navigation recently? Or do we accept the possibility that an ancient advanced culture explored and mapped the world long before we think they could? What's at stake? If the second option is true, it changes everything we know about our past. It means humans weren't just surviving in the Ice Age, they were thriving. They were curious, adventurous, and connected across vast distances. It means there could be entire chapters of our history, cultures, ports, cities, now lying beneath the ocean, waiting to be discovered. And maybe, just maybe, the clues are already in our hands, printed in ink on yellowed parchment, waiting for someone to notice. So, what do you think? Were these ancient maps the work of lucky guesswork, or the last whispers of a lost civilization that once sailed the world? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because if these maps are telling the truth, our history is far older, far stranger, and far more connected than we've ever imagined. And if you enjoyed uncovering these mysteries with me, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss our next deep dive into the secrets of the past.